All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, in a move that will send shockwaves throughout the collegiate landscape, both USC and UCLA are set to leave the Pac 12 conference in favor of the Big Ten. The geographical landscape of college football is shifting as the Big Ten is now a coast to coast conference once you factor in that Rutgers and Maryland are also a part of this conference. It's all about the race for the almighty dollar in collegiate athletics. As you think about it when it comes to the power conferences, it's the Big Ten, it's the SEC, and then it's everyone else. I mean, we just saw Texas and Oklahoma basically give the Big 12 their 2 week notice as they are set apart in favor of the SEC. And this is a huge blow for the Pac 12 as UCLA and USC's respective relationships with the Pac 12 conference go back to 1968. Of course, in those days when it was a Pac 8, and then with the additions of Arizona and Arizona State, the Pac 8 became the Pac 10. And then, of course, about a decade ago, with the additions of Colorado and Utah, it then became the Pac 12. But make no mistake about it, this is a huge blow to the Pac 12 conference because you're losing your flagship program for college football in USC. Nobody's made more Rose Bowl appearances, Big Ten or Pac 12, and for either conference than USC. And when you think about college basketball, especially in the Pac 12, it's UCLA and everyone else. And that's not a slight to anybody. You just think about the success and the storied Bruin program that we're talking about in Westwood. So now the Pac 12 loses that, not to mention you think about the success that USC's baseball program has had, USC's volleyball program, as well as UCLA's volleyball program as well, just to name a few. And now they're bolting the conference of champions in favor of the Big Ten. And from the Big Ten standpoint, you now have the top three media markets in your conference because you figure Chicago is represented by Northwestern, and you can make a case for Illinois. Rutgers represents the New York City area, and then of course now you have USC and UCLA bringing in that Los Angeles money, and this is big for the Big Ten from the standpoint that hey, this only helps your brand because now the Big Ten can go into any network office, NBC, ABC/ESPN, CBS, Fox, you name it, and negotiate any deal that they want because of the media markets that they have in their conference. And it's not just that, it's going to be the blue bloods from college football as well because you already had Michigan, you already had Michigan State, Ohio State, Penn State, Nebraska. Now you're going to sit up there and add USC to that mix too. It's going to make it's a slam dunk as far as the Big Ten rather getting anything that they want media rights wise. This is also going to help Big Ten powers recruit, out west. I mean, we've already seen the likes of Michigan and Ohio State be able to recruit out west over the years. This is only going to heighten it. It's also going to help USC and UCLA in regards to recruiting the Midwest. Now, where it's going to be a problem, it's going to be a scheduling nightmare. And it's not just for college football, it's for the other athletic programs as well, because now, you know, you're going to ask kids to be going on cross country flights in order to compete in a conference event. That's going to be very difficult to deal with right there. But nonetheless, now you think about it. I mean, SC is going to be coming east to play some games, and you're also going to have a situation where those Eastern Standard Time Zone programs are now going to have to factor in having to travel out west. This is going to be something that has to be factored in as well. But at the end of the day, it comes down to the NILs and, of course, the television contracts. And USC, they weren't thrilled obviously as far as like extending their deal with the Pac-12, but at the end of the day, the Pac-12 has been bringing up the rear money wise when it comes to the other top tier conferences in the country, as well as also been bringing up the rear in regards to getting berths for the college football playoff. You think back to since the college football playoff, excuse me, was implemented, Oregon got there once, Washington got there once. That's it. We've seen obviously the SEC run things. We've seen Alabama get there numerous times, Georgia get there numerous times, LSU get there once, and then of course the Big Ten. We've seen Ohio State get through there several times, Michigan State. The ACC, of course, has been dominated by Clemson. And then, of course, the Big 12 has been dominated by Oklahoma. But at the end of the day, the Pac 12 has been left out in the dust, and rightfully so, because they just have not been good enough to measure up to say, hey, you know what, we deserve a spot at the table. But at the end of the day, it comes down to money. And money talks and everything else walks. And the Pac 12 has not been getting those good television contract deals in comparison to the SEC, in comparison to the Big Ten. And we're seeing it in more phases in one because Oregon was one of the premier programs from the Pac 12, and they just lost their head football coach, Mario Cristobal, to his alma mater at the University of Miami. And now you're looking at this Oregon program. Is it possibly just now a stepping stone program? But for me, at the end of the day, this is a huge blow to the Pac 12 conference because I think the Pac 12 now takes several steps back. We went from a situation recently where it was rumored that Texas and Oklahoma could be joining forces with the Pac 12 to the point that not only did that not happen, but the Pac 12 also lost USC and UCLA. And I mean, I don't see how you fill that void if you're the Pac 12. There's no other brand out there on the West Coast that you could come up there and bring in and say, hey, well, we're going to try to replace USC and UCLA. I mean, you think about it, Texas and Oklahoma are now committed to the SEC. So many powers are committed to the Big Ten and the SEC. So, what do you do if you are the Pac 12? You're going to have to ride this storm. You're going to have to try to figure it out. But this is a huge blow because you lost two of your flagship programs, but then on top of that, you just lost the Los Angeles media market in the process, and that is really going to hurt your chances going forward as far as competing and getting television contract money. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Also, the ultimate question: will USC and UCLA have success in the Big Ten? That is going to be the elephant in the room. I think USC has the potential to have more success on the gridiron than UCLA will, but it's going to be a huge adjustment for both of these teams now having to consistently travel to the Midwest and to the East Coast in order to play football games. Because you think about it, for years, it was just a West Coast thing for both USC and UCLA, probably making one trip every year or so east to play a Big Ten school, to play an ACC school, and so forth. Now, this is going to be a regular thing because you figure the Pac 12, for the most part, made up one time zone. You know, you started up with the Washington schools, the Oregon schools, Stanford, Cal, come down to SC and UCLA. Then you had Arizona and Arizona State. And then, of course, the additions of Colorado and Utah. But that now changes. So it's going to be interesting to see how everybody get involved gets acclimated. And it's funny because people want to say that Lincoln Riley, left Oklahoma because he didn't want to deal with the SEC. Now he's going to have to deal with the Big Ten, which is no slouch when it comes to things on the gridiron. So this was a big time shocker, but at the end of the day, it really shouldn't be a shocker because it's all about money in collegiate athletics. And these athletic directors, these school presidents, they're going to go with whomever gets them the best TV deal. And once you attach yourself with the Big Ten, or once you attach yourself with the SEC, the money coming into your school is second to none. The Pac 12 cannot say that. And I think the Pac 12 found out the hard way that there is no such thing as loyalty. And at the end of the day, people should have realized this before, that there's no such thing as loyalty. I mean, if Texas and Oklahoma will leave the Big 12, you got to realize there's no such thing as loyalty. If Maryland would leave within their relationship, the ACC, in favor of the Big Ten, you got to realize that. And of course, obviously now with USC and UCLA being willing to jump several time zones in order to play football, obviously money talks and everything walks. Everything else walks on the collegiate landscape. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off, saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.